$25,740. Now you might be thinking that's a salary or maybe some big repair bill. No way. That staggering number, that is literally just the fuel cost for a single short leg of a maritime journey. Welcome to the massive, high-stakes world of shipping economics where absolute fortunes are made or completely lost before a vessel even leaves the dock.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into voyage estimating. But listen, we're not going to treat this like some dry, dusty accounting lecture. Oh no. Think of this as a high-stakes mission briefing. We're looking at the exact master blueprint used to maximize oceanic profit. It's like a giant puzzle, so let's get right into it.
Here's a quick look at our mission briefing. We're covering 5 steps today. 1. The master voyage blueprint. 2. Defining the exact mission. 3. Maximizing payload and payout. 4. Calculating the operating costs. And finally, number 5. The final profit call.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the master voyage blueprint, assessing the financial result. So, what does this all actually mean? Well, a voyage estimate is essentially the blueprint that weighs two crucial, totally opposing forces against each other. On one side, you've got the revenue we can earn, which in shipping terms we call freight. And on the other side, the relentless, never-ending tide of operating costs, both direct and indirect. The whole goal here is calculating your approximate returns before you commit a multi-million-dollar asset to the open ocean.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining the exact mission, discharge to discharge.
Now, before we can calculate a single dollar, we really need to define the exact parameters of our mission. And honestly, it starts way earlier than you might think. Because massive cargo ships rarely find new cargo sitting exactly where they just unloaded, the legal and financial timeline of a voyage actually kicks off the second the previous cargo finishes discharging. So it covers what we call the ballast sail, which is when the ship is sailing completely empty to the new load port. It includes all the loading activity, the loaded sail to the destination, and it doesn't end until the new cargo is fully unloaded. Basically, you're paying for the ship's entire repositioning, not just the cargo run.
Section 3, maximizing payload and payout, the physics of freight.
This part is an absolute logistical tightrope walk. To figure out our available cargo space, we actually have to subtract the weight of our required bunkers, the fuel, plus fresh water, and ship constants from the vessel's total capacity. And we have to do all this while navigating tricky charter terms, like the 5% more or less owner's option, or MOLO, which gives the owner a little volume buffer. Oh, and we can't forget port draft restrictions. You obviously can't load a ship so heavy that it literally scrapes the bottom of a shallow port.
Let's put some real numbers to this. Imagine a ship with a deadweight tonnage of 76,000 tons. That is the absolute maximum weight it can safely hold. But we obviously can't fill that entirely with paying cargo, right? We have to subtract 1,500 tons for our bunker fuel, 200 tons for fresh water, and say 300 tons for other constants. When we do the math, that leaves us with exactly 74,000 tons strictly available for our profit-generating cargo.
But here's where we hit a really cool cinematic twist of cargo physics: weight versus volume. If we decide to load light grain, well, it takes up so much physical space that we actually max out our hold volume at only 65,000 tons. We literally run out of room way before we hit our weight limit. But if we load incredibly dense iron ore instead, we can pack in the full 74,000 tons, totally maximizing our weight limit and, by extension, our payout. It's an absolute game changer.
All right, Section 4, calculating the operating costs, the relentless burn.
Once our payload is locked, we have to face the relentless burn of expenses. These direct operating costs hit us in 3 main ways. First up, massive bunker costs for fuel across both sea passage and port days. Second, port charges, which are heavily based on the ship's specific physical dimensions, things like gross tonnage, length, and draft. And third, unavoidable canal transit fees and specialized services. It's basically a rapid-fire montage of outgoing cash. To survive this financial gauntlet, we have to calculate our time perfectly. We get our sea passage days by taking the precise total distance, dividing it by our ship's speed, and then dividing by 24 hours. Then we calculate our base port days using the charter's stipulated lay time, which is basically dividing the total cargo by the daily loading rate. But we're not done yet. We have to adjust those port days for specific charter exclusions.
And this is absolutely crucial because those exclusions drastically change the math. Let's say our cargo loading rate mathematically gives us 7.58 port days. Well, we have to remember that rough weather, Sundays, and holidays often bring port work to a grinding halt.
So, if our contract has Sundays and holidays excluded, or SHEX terms, we apply a 1.45 rule of thumb multiplier. Bam! That instantly extends our perfect 7.58 days into a highly expensive 11-day port stay, burning fuel and racking up daily costs the entire time.
Which brings us to Section 5, the final profit call, the bottom line.
This is where the mastermind runs the definitive numbers. First, we find our net freight by taking our gross freight and deducting any broker commissions. Then, we subtract our direct operating expenses to find our gross operating profit, or GOP. To understand the true daily velocity of our earnings, we take that GOP and divide it by the total voyage days. And finally, we divide our total operating expenses by total cargo to find our absolute break-even freight rate. That's the exact number we need to hit just to ensure we don't lose our shirts on the journey.
But for a ship owner, the ultimate bottom line metric is the TC yield, or time charter yield. This metric is brilliant. It reveals exactly what daily, low-risk time charter rate would give the owner the exact equivalent financial return as executing the complex, highly variable voyage we just mapped out. It's basically the ultimate tool to compare this specific, risky mission against just safely renting the ship out for a flat, guaranteed daily fee.
However, no matter how precise our master blueprint appears, the source material leaves us with a stark, lingering warning. Quote, "It is important to remember that the voyage estimate is only an estimate and can only be as good as the data and information used, including assumptions, if any."
Which really leaves us with the final, massive question to consider. Think about it. If a multi-million-dollar payout relies entirely on the accuracy of these initial estimates, assuming fuel prices stay stable, assuming ports operate efficiently, assuming the weather actually cooperates, what happens to the ship owner's millions, and honestly, the entire global supply chain, when an unexpected storm or port strike shatters all those perfect assumptions? It's an incredible, high-stakes logistical puzzle out there on the high seas. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the numbers.